It's the year 3043. The great console wars continue to rage on. Just when you think Nintendo has claimed victory with its release of its Nintendo Portal, which transports you into the virtual Mario world to rescue Peach from Bowser yourself, the PlayStation 45 announces the exclusive release of Half-Life 3. The war rages on. Seriously, when you look at the three biggest players in the console wars, PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox, just who exactly is winning? Well, today we're looking at which console and company has made the most money off their products. Who do you think is coming out on top? Let's get into it right now.
And I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about this.
So, if we had to rank and rate Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, which do you think would be the richest of them all? Well, let's start from the bottom and work our way up. Coming in at number 3 is kind of a surprising one in my opinion. It's Nintendo.
What?
Honestly, I sort of thought this one would end up on top, but it's actually trailing behind the other two.
Come on!
Right now, the company is valued around $85 billion, and its success only continues to grow. If we look at just 2020 revenue, it's kind of an insane number. Last year, net sales were about $12.12 billion, which was a big jump from the $10.91 billion from 2019. Seems like a worldwide pandemic where a lot of people are stuck at home is good for video game companies. But here's the interesting part about Nintendo as a company. Even though they're sitting in third place in terms of revenue over the years, they've actually sold the most consoles overall. Taking into account every console Nintendo has sold since 1977, they've sold about 780 million consoles. And this speaks to the wide range of Nintendo products overall. Nintendo as a company likes to try new things and take risks with their products. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. What do you think is the highest selling Nintendo video game device? The answer may surprise you a bit. It's actually the Nintendo DS, which has sold about 155 million units since its launch in 2004. Of course, this encompasses the total sales for all the different variations of the DS, which include the DS Lite and the DSi. It's also the best performing system in terms of game sales, with total sales close to 950 million games. That's crazy! Never underestimate handheld gaming. Those numbers start to add up. The Nintendo DS is actually the second highest selling video game console ever. Number 1 we'll get to a little later. But if you look at the rest of the top 10 selling video game consoles of all time, you'll see quite a few Nintendo products. The original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color sold close to 120 million units, while the Game Boy Advance sold over 80 million units. Again, handheld gaming consoles might not rake in the big dough compared to bigger consoles, but you can't deny their impact on the gaming world. The other big Nintendo products include consoles like the Nintendo Wii, the 3DS, and the Nintendo Switch. And I love how sneaky the Switch is. I thought the Sony and the Microsoft consoles would beat out the Switch, but the Switch turned out to be the top-selling gaming console of 2020. But just because Nintendo has put out a lot of great products, doesn't mean it doesn't have a few duds. Anyone remember Nintendo's Virtual Boy from the 90s? Or the weak Wii U? Yeah, not everything they produce is a winner. Besides the consoles, Nintendo has some of the most famous video game franchises ever. Super Mario, Pokemon, The Legend of Zelda, and Donkey Kong all have become commonplace within today's world. Seriously, can you see a plumber dressed in red and not think of Mario? Do you sometimes have night terrors as you can't get Navi from Legend of Zelda saying, "Hey, listen!" out of your head? Or is that just me? Never mind. Overall, Nintendo is a solid company who will continue to do well in the video game market going forward. They sort of rose from the ashes of the great video game crash of the early 80s and have never stopped pushing forward since then. They'll continue to grow long after you and I are long gone. Alright, let's keep this train rolling. Sony is the second most profitable company out of the three of them, but you'll be amazed at just how big of a jump it is. But keep something in mind. Both Sony and Microsoft aren't just video game companies. They have a whole hodgepodge of other revenue sources that really inflate their numbers. Like in 2020, Sony made over $75 billion. Yeah, you heard me. Billion with a B. Last week, I had to go diving underneath my car seat so I could find some loose change to afford my McDonald's meal. But everything's fine. Who cares, right? Not me. But let's talk about some of the greatest consoles and games Sony has produced. When we talk about Sony, it's hard not to mention the golden goose in their arsenal. Out of every video game console ever, there's still one of them that reigns supreme. On March 4th, 2000, the video game world changed forever with the release of the PS2. Maybe this was just peak video game time. Maybe the games that were available on a mass scale were just too good to pass up. Maybe Sony made a deal with a demon that this console would be extremely popular in exchange for Half-Life 3 never being released. Whatever the reason, the PlayStation 2 still to this day stands as the best-selling video game console of all time. The last official sales report from Sony in 2011 had the PS2 at close to 150 million consoles sold. But the console would remain in production up to early 2013. And if you add some statistical analysis to that, it looks like in the end, the final total for consoles sold is close to 160 million. But the PlayStation consoles have always been popular. While the PS2 is number 1, the top 10 list of the best-selling consoles of all time also include the PS4, the PS3, and the original PlayStation. What will be interesting to see, though, is how the PS5 does in the long term. With the difficulty gamers have had to obtain a PS5 since its release, as well as stiff competition from everyone else, do you think it will join the ranks of top-selling consoles of all time like its brethren? Only time will tell. And on top of the consoles, the PlayStation and Sony brand have delivered must-have new games on top of shiny new exclusives that keep gamers coming back for more every single year. They built up a solid revenue over the years with high-selling entries in the Grand Theft Auto and Gran Turismo franchises that continue to make money among others, as well as newer games like The Last of Us, Marvel's Spider-Man, and Horizon Zero Dawn, just to name a few. Yeah, they're not running out of money anytime soon. Now the big kahuna, Microsoft. The company behind both Xbox and the one telling me to renew my Microsoft Word seemingly all the time. Again, Microsoft does a lot of other things besides video games, with the company earning $143 billion in revenue in 2020. It kind of feels like a cheat, doesn't it? I mean, the list of top 10 best-selling consoles of all time is mostly populated with Sony and Nintendo products, with the Xbox 360 thrown in at number 8 with 85 million consoles sold. The Xbox One didn't even crack the top 10 with 41 million consoles sold. In the gaming department, Microsoft has had a few high-earning franchises for their Xbox consoles like Halo and Gears of War, but I think the real moneymaker is Minecraft. In 2014, Microsoft bought the IP for Minecraft for $2.5 billion, and overall the investment was worth it. Minecraft is one of the top-selling video games of all time, and will presumably continue to dominate for many years to come. So even though it's lagging behind its video game counterparts in Nintendo and Sony, Microsoft probably isn't sweating that much. Sure, the Xbox Series X seems to be lagging a bit behind Xbox One sales during the same post-launch timeframe, but the new console doesn't need to top the charts. It just needs to be a reliable performer to keep Microsoft current, and they'll probably be the top company for the foreseeable future. But how's that saying go? Money isn't everything? The question is, which of these companies is the richest? And although I've answered that question in monetary value, you could define riches in different terms. Nintendo and Sony probably have more fan love than Microsoft ever will, so there's something, right? On second thought, nah, money's probably better. You know, TheGamer was getting ready to release its gamer console G8 in just a few months, which would allow gamers to digitize themselves like Tron into your favorite video games. But now, after hearing all that, maybe we'll just stick to gaming videos for a while.